Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with today's episode of A New Thing, and this is going to be a shorter one. And it's going to be a shorter one because I'm going to recommend you to watch two videos, or listen to two things if you don't want to. You don't even need to watch them; they're easy to just keep on the background. But I think you'll get a lot more substance out of those things than any of my commentary can really add. So. The reason I'm doing this is because I think it's really important uh, to engage and learn, and also to see how good engagement is done. And I think that these last week and a half, I believe it's been, has presented such an amazing opportunity to kind of see be excited about God's working in the world with what's happened, but also shows us that we should be able to do what Peter asks us to do in his letter, his first letter, which I'm going to get to in a second. But we are just so blessed to live in a time where we have such a great amount of knowledge at our fingertips. And I just think it would be a great benefit for everyone to watch these videos. I'm going to give a little bit of a caveat to some of it, but there's I think that the benefit comes from listening or watching what I'm going to send. Really, listening is better because podcasts are made for listening, kind of like radio. So what I would do is I would do something else, throw it on in the background, listen passively, and then you're going to catch the important stuff. Believe me, when it pops up. But all that is to say is we should take advantage of this. Sometimes we don't want to keep pushing ourselves to learn. But to me, I think that from a biblical standpoint, we never have an excuse to do that. We should always be trying to learn more, not just of the Bible, but of surrounding fields, because we are called to defend and to give answer for our faith, right? To give an answer. An apologetic is kind of what that means. And so I want to just look at the note from the verse from First Peter, which I've quoted before, but I think it's important to always remember. So this is First Peter 3:15, and he's talking in the context here of suffering and the idea that you're going to be dragged before the courts, or you're going to have to give testimony to people, and people are going to say nasty things about you. But while he's talking about that, right, he says in verse 15, he says, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ might be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil." Yeah, so just to point out, you'll see here it says you're gonna have to take my word for it, of course, but anyone who can read Greek knows this. This is apologia. I remember sometimes it lets me read it out loud. I don't know if that's gonna happen. In any case, right? Apologia, as you can see here, means defense, and that's how it's used. And so that's what we are called to do. We're called to give apologetics, and that's a big part of Christian testimony. And I am going to just hold up someone who's done this very well over the past a month to a few weeks. So in relation to talking about ancient aliens, there is this one TikTok influencer guy called by the name of Billy Carson. I'll just pull him up so you can see what he's like. So Billy Carson is, you can see it here, is his Instagram profile. He has a Facebook. I know he was on TikTok, although let's see if TikTok's even around. He runs this thing called Forbidden Knowledge. And he basically, this is how he classified himself, right? He says he's an expert in ancient civilizations, spirituality, and technology, presents the idea that the universe is a fractal holographic matrix. And so this is like conspiracy theory, ancient civilization, ancient aliens thing. He thinks that there's all sorts of things that he believes, but it's very much tied in with what I was talking about last week. And so, but one of the things he does is he's very much a uh, he's and you'll see this in one of the interviews or one of the debates, whatever, that I'm going to recommend. Is he sets himself up as an expert in religion and in the Bible, and he's not. He's very much doesn't understand what he's talking about. Just he does not even, I would say, Wikipedia research. Just kind of takes whatever he thinks is interesting and says, "This is the real thing. This is the real deal. Don't listen to what these other people are teaching you." So all that is to say is this comes full circle when he meets a guy called Wes Huff, who I had never heard about before. To my great surprise, I think I'm pretty well plugged into like the Christian apologetic sphere. I would say I'm pretty familiar with a lot of people, but maybe it's because Wes Huff is Canadian, and that's why that's why I didn't know him. But in any case, right, he gets on and he debates Billy Carson because he's they're both friends with this guy who you see here in the middle, and they and Wes Huff goes on to kind of, as you'll see, I'm going to put this in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. I think the first hour is really what you have to listen to. Unfortunately, and I don't mean any disrespect to the host, but he really gets in the way of the conversation, and that only gets worse as it goes on. But you can see from very early on that Billy Carson is very much out of his depth, and Wes Huff does a great job presenting not just the Christian biblical case, but really just the scholarship case in general for biblical testimony and things like that. And it's really cool to see what he does. He works with manuscripts as mostly his focus academically, which is the physical remains that we have of the writings of the church, right? So the copies, things like that. So really cool stuff. Anyway, that's not really the most important thing. This is a cool debate to see, especially the first hour. But really what's most interesting is the fallout of this. So Billy Carson is lots of followers, right? And he was invited to go on the Joe Rogan Experience. For those of you who don't know, the Joe Rogan Experience is the #1 podcast in the world. It has by far the most listeners. And I should note that it is definitely not for kids. I'm also going to recommend that, and I think that's definitely worth listening to. Something to note is it's not a structured thing, right? So it's not a structured segment type of thing. It's just two people talking. And it's 3 hours long. This is why it's best to listen to when you're, working out or doing something else, right? But anyway, Billy Carson went on Joe Rogan and got a chance to kind of spew his whole pseudo-archaeological thing on there because Joe will just let anyone come on his podcast, basically anyone he finds interesting. But then Joe Rogan gets a whiff of what happened with Wesley Huff and Billy Carson. And he watched the debate that I'm going to link. He watched this. And he saw, it has 2.4 million views. It's amazing. It's about a month ago, right? And so Joe brings Wes on last week. And Wes gets to have a platform that most Christian apologists would die for. The chance to go on the biggest podcast in the world, right? It has 4.7 million views on YouTube. That's not even counting the millions of plays that it got on Spotify and all, other places that you can get the Joe Rogan podcast, right? So just the fact that he had that opportunity is amazing and something that we should absolutely be praising God for. And Joe Rogan is very much the smoking section, right? This is the thing that I've usually found very troublesome with Christian apologetics and Christian outreach is that it really never goes to the smoking section. What I mean by that is the place where people curse and talk like they normally do, right? And present the gospel to people who would never really get a chance to hear it. And Wes does an amazing job. Does he do it perfectly? No, but I mean, like, what an insane environment to be in. You put me in a room, like, for 3 hours, unscripted, just going off the cuff, right? Being asked questions that I didn't have time to prepare for, things like that. You gotta give him some credit. And some people tried to go after Wes Huff, and even if I would have said things differently. I think he does a great job. So I want to recommend those videos to you. Like I said, they're long. The first video, the Billy Carson debate, only the first hour is probably necessary. You can listen to the whole thing. I did. But first hour is only the really necessary part. And then the Joe Rogan video and episode, you can listen to it on a podcast app, whatever you want, is definitely, worth worth engaging with, just to see how really good apologetics is done, because Wes Huff lives out, I think, in a really good way, what Peter asks us to do in what I read. And I think we can learn a lot. And because these are popular platforms, it's all, I believe, brought down to a level for a lot of people to understand, right? We're not going deep into manuscript study here. It is stuff that you can understand, because Wes wants you to understand it in an easy way. So just I think we should be praising God for that opportunity, and definitely be taking notes as Christians of how we can engage, because you're going to notice that the conversations that Wes has, especially with Joe Rogan, is very much the type of conversation you would have with someone in a plane that you're sitting next to, or in a bar, or one of your friends, stuff like that, right? So commit it in the sense of go, oh yeah, this is important. I need to know about it. And maybe there's nuggets and kernels that I can pull out, store in my memory, or do more research on, and really be able to present a good case to people if I ever need to. So that's all I have to say today. Yeah, go watch those videos, and I will see you on Sunday. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Peace out.